You're listening to the Nothing to Lose podcast with your host, Mansour, the only man left talking sense in London. The real deal. Well, go on then, what you waiting for, Muppet?
So I've had a bit of a bizarre week. I quit my job last week, but don't get me wrong, it wasn't in any way traumatic. I mean, I've quit so many jobs I've become a pro at it. But it's never like in the movies. You know, in films, when a character leaves their job, they always do it in this really acrimonious way. They have an argument with the boss. Then it cuts to the next scene where they're always exiting through the car park, always carrying a single box, and it's always filled with random stuff that no one really has in their desk. You know, things like a pot plant and a random trophy. I didn't have any of that. I kind of just bounced, handed in the pass, and I walked out. I think for the next job I quit, I'm going to do it like a pro wrestler. Start flipping over tables, shouting at the manager. Or I might do it like one of those TV cop shows, bring a gun and badge to work, throw it on the desk of the boss as I walk out, and then get arrested by the Met Police on the way home. And why is it that, you know, whenever you hand in your notice, everyone suddenly becomes cool and calm? You know, those same people who were sweating you before and are really chilled out. You know, that 1 month, that notice period that you have to serve out after you hand in your notice, that's like the coolest month ever. You know, you're not quite working, you're kind of chilling out. Right, I think that's the key to happiness in life, that you just continuously relive that 1 month. In fact, I'm going to make it my life's aim to repeatedly apply to jobs with the sole intention of quitting immediately, just so I can work there for that one golden month on loop forever. Then I'll reach nirvana. I go back to the gym again. Those guys at Virgin Active kept direct debiting my account, so I figured I might as well show up. You know, I hadn't been for so long that they disabled my access pass because they thought I'd lost it or something. Anyways, I quickly reinstated my membership and I was back in there. And I hit the boxing class again, and it's a legit boxing class. I mean, it's a really good way to get fit. Back when I was on the gym properly, I was like regularly going to that. They had this mad instructor. I don't know where they found this guy. I don't know. This guy looked like he trained Van Damme or something, right? And all the exercises he gets us to do are like those rough, rugged and raw bodyweight exercises. You know, the kind of stuff you do when you're in prison and you got no other equipment. You know, do dips on the bathtub and that kind of thing. But it does the job. I mean, it's really effective way to get fit. You know, and I've been doing boxing on and off for the last 10 years. And one common theme I always find is that, you know, in every class I go to, there's always someone in the class who looks like they're training for something. You know, there's something in their life that they're practicing for. Like, I used to go to this one class where there was this middle-aged dude who used to show up. And he used to punch the bag like it was his boss or something. Yeah, that dude looked angry. I just hope he wasn't planning for something. The crazy thing about boxing is that, unlike, say, karate or those other martial arts, is that you can't pretend that you're there to learn discipline or whatever. Let's be real, you're there to learn how to fight. But that's cool too. The thing about Virgin Active, and I'm going to sound like the worst person on earth saying this, is that I joined a really expensive one. And the reason I joined is that they got these really nice toiletries in the shower. Like, I mean, I don't even have hair, but I love the conditioner in the shower for some reason. I don't know, I guess the exercise is good too. But importantly is that, you know, they've got like good, clean showers, not like those prison showers you see sometimes in gyms. The other thing I'm doing is I'm revisiting films that I watched back in the day, like mainly the 90s, but that I didn't really understand at the time. Maybe I was too young or whatever. And one film I watched this week is Armageddon. You know, the old Bruce Willis film about the comet that's going to hit Earth. And it's a really great film, which I realize is a super late review. I mean, this film is 20 years old, but it's great. I mean, it's got all the usual blockbuster elements, and that's cool. But there's a few things in it that annoyed me. Like, it's mad racialized. You know, Hollywood is normally like that. You know, it's got the usual, you know, Americans are here to save the world and kind of subtle tones of paternalism or something. But it kind of goes beyond that. I mean, for instance, there's like random scenes that it keeps cutting to of like, you know, all the people around the world, you know, the other soon-to-be victims of this comet. And at times they cut to some nondescript Islamic country, and there's some people kind of gathered in the square outside the mosque, and they're standing with like sticks that are set on fire, and they're chanting obscure things. And listen, I don't know what the hell that is, right? Like, I mean, I go to the mosque, I'll be real with you. There's no fire, right? I mean, there are other elements to prayer, but fire is not one of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write that down in a letter, send that back in time, back to J.J. Abrams, and I hope he takes it on board. The other thing that annoys me about this film, and I mean, look, it's got a great soundtrack, right? The main song is this Aerosmith song, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing. And I'm sure it was a hit back then. But I put it in this class of songs that I call shameless wedding songs, right? It's clearly written as a wedding song, and, they're not the only ones guilty of that crime. Spoiler alert. I mean, do I even need to give a spoiler alert? I mean, this film is 20 years old. But there's a scene in the film that's a wedding scene. And, this song is so clearly and shamelessly and deliberately written as a wedding song that, they've created a wedding scene in the film and the song is playing in the background. I mean, at least throwing some subtlety here, right? Hey, whatever. I'm sure Steve Tyler's still getting that residual money for it.
Don't wanna close my eyes. I don't wanna fall asleep 'cause I miss you, baby. And I don't wanna miss a thing. 'Cause even when I dream of you.
I went to this comedy night down at the Comedy Store in the West End. I go there once a month with my boys. It's called King Gong. And it's basically a newcomer night with a twist. And the twist is you can heckle, right? If you don't like the comedians on stage, you can boo them off. And that's exactly what we do. But if these newcomers can survive 5 minutes without getting booed off, then they win a prize, they get to come back and perform like a proper set at the Comedy Store. And it's a legit venue. It's, the comedy venue in the UK. Anyone in comedy kind of came up through that. Anyway, so I went there on Monday, and there's a couple guys that I usually go with, and we're pretty antagonistic. Don't get me wrong, we give them a chance, we give them like 5 or 10 seconds, but then we start booing. We'll start off with some low-level booing, but then we'll get pretty aggressive until they leave. Call it a baptism of fire. But what was weird about this week is that randomly an old friend of mine was there. I mean, I didn't even know he was going to be there. I just randomly bumped into him in the interval and he told me, yo, I'm up next. I mean, this guy go way back like 20 years. So it was really hard for me to have to suppress that, that urge to boo him off. Because I'm like the big instigator. I show up every night and I boo everyone off, right? I gave him a shot. Call it bias or whatever. That's cool. He's my boy. But he did alright. I mean, he lasted about a minute, which is respectable considering a lot of people only last about 10 seconds. Mainly because I'm in the room. I mean, he did his thing, he kind of held it down, it's tough. I give him mad respect. I called him after the show and he was mad critical, and I think that's exactly the approach to take. But you'll never catch me doing it. I think stand-up comedy is the hardest thing in the world. I got an old buddy of mine who's now a proper stand-up, and he always says, listen, being funny is easy, having to be funny is hard. And that's why you'll never catch me on there. I mean, if I do it, what I'll do is I won't go to the club in London, I'll go to the other one in Manchester. I'll go there on some low-key night, give him a fake name, do my 5 minutes. If it works, great. If not, we'll bury it, forget it ever happened. I suppose the other big thing that's happened this week is Brexit related. They've finally triggered Article 50. Just as a matter of fact, I voted Remain. But here's the thing, kind of oft-touted benefit of the EU is that there's this freedom of movement and that, you can, very smoothly travel between these European countries. And, that's definitely not my experience. I think that's true for a certain class of people. But, if you got the same government name as me, my name's up there. It might as well be Bin Laden, right? It's like instant pullover at the airport every time I travel. But I get it mainly in European countries, kind of last year I did a bunch, I went to like 10 European countries. Without fail, I always get pulled over at those, electronic gates. I always get pulled up to the desk to speak to someone for, kind of further inspection. But one funny thing they do at these, European airports, and I swear Germany is like the worst. Well, I'll leave you to think on that. But, one thing that often happens is that whenever I get pulled up, what they'll do is they'll pull up someone else, right? Someone who looks kind of inoffensive, kind of look miskin. It's usually like a young girl or something. But they'll pull her up alongside me to kind of make it look like they're not profiling me, which is terrible, of course. But it's quite a funny sight. What I'm saying is that, Brexit or no Brexit, my traveling circumstances have definitely not changed. So there you have it. That's the pilot for Nothing to Lose. This series is really just me and my thoughts, so I hope you found it insightful or amusing or whatever. We got some other ideas on the way, some other series, more conversational. We got some ideas cooking up, so look out for those. In the meantime, keep listening and mailing your feedback. Peace.